Good evening. I'm Robert Hollis with the Greater Johnstown branch of the NAACP, and I welcome you to our panel discussion on careers in STEM. Now, I was moved by the words of Amanda Gorman in her inaugural poem, The Hill We Climb. She painted the picture of a nation that is still great, but just needs to reunite and work together. Now, few career fields can unite people like science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. These advancements are agnostic of race, religion, party, and gender. So these young men before me today have chosen careers that will shape our country under common interests. So like you, I really want to get to know these guys. And I'm going to start in my upper left-hand corner and ask Richard, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and the career that you chose?
Absolutely. So my name is Richard Simiari Jr. Background in software sales. Graduated out of St. Francis University, degree in management information systems and accounting. And from there went into the software space, actually starting as a quality software engineer, then doing a bit more of technical sales or sales engineer, solutions engineer, whatever you want to call it. And then now transition all the way to the opposite side of the spectrum and just straight software sales as a representative. So that's my background.
All right. And Michael, a little bit of background on you and the career that you've chosen.
Absolutely. So Michael Samiari, also went to St. Francis as well with Richard. And I studied computer science, and I had a double major in cybersecurity administration as well. So from there, I am now a systems engineer, and so kind of on the sales side, but with the computer science degree, I'm kind of on the engineering side as well. So, yeah.
All righty. So you both are kind of crossing the gap between sales and technology. Michael, how did you decide on this career field? How did you decide to pursue this career?
Yeah, so it wasn't a smooth sort of road, as you probably can expect. With computer science, it's sort of broad in terms of what you can find. So with that cybersecurity major, I was initially looking for jobs that were in the cybersecurity field because that was more interesting to me. But the interview wasn't going very, fast. So ended up actually Richard, where he works, he had opportunity for in this position. And so that's when I took that. And it was still engineering and still technical. So it was kind of up my alley, and that's kind of how I ended up there.
Gotcha. So you ended up working for the same company that your older brother was already working at.
Correct.
It's always great to have to have that contact, because there's so many people out there, something that sets you apart, whether it be something that you did during your schooling or the contact that can open doors for you. So Richard, how did you decide on this career field?
Absolutely. So for me, it was, I think, growing up, a battle between going science field like our parents, and then had a very strong, I think, interest as well for information technology. And so I found myself from, the little things like just playing video games, understanding how these things were created, to just computers and in general, and just seeing the evolution of the outcome once the internet, was created. Yeah. So I was very much drawn by that, and just weighing the options going into school. I think I saw things going towards the technology side, things going online, and saw, honestly, I think I did some research into salary as well. I was like, all right, where can I possibly, I'll be completely honest here, where can I possibly do less schooling and potentially still have a high potential? That, I'm just being honest, and still have a high income potential. And it seemed like technology was going to be that route. And I think, as we can see here in Corona, being able to work from home and just the flexibility around that job itself is something that I wasn't necessarily thinking of then, but understood that there were more options in the technology space. So that was really it for me.
Brother, I totally understand you. And I made the same decision for the same reasons, no joke. I looked at it and I said, well, I do enjoy technology. However, 4 years of school, big paycheck at the end. I was like, I enjoy it and you get paid. So there's nothing wrong with that. We do have to look at how we're going to support ourselves once we leave our parents' house, right? So as you got into your career, what do you think was the biggest surprise once you made that decision, once you got into the career field?
I think for me, it was probably just understanding at least for me, getting into corporate life, understanding that world and just and I think the learning experience and actually coming into the job and realizing I don't know anything, you know. So that was the biggest surprise. And then honestly, just understanding, and maybe it was just lucky in the culture that we were fortunate to jump into with our company, but just how willing people were able to help and just how friendly people, like it wasn't something that you had to be, you know, not yourself anymore. Everyone was still very much themselves, and you know, just I think for me, just a learning environment and really realizing that, okay, maybe not technically everything that I learned in school, but fundamentally the aspects, the little things, just as even time prioritization, all came into hand to really help grow myself in that role and just that in general. So I'd say really that was some of the biggest things that I realized was like, wow, this is completely different than I thought. You know, it's not like as I guess strenuous or as scary as a thought, other than not knowing anything for that first few weeks.
You know, no matter how well you grasp things in school, you get out into the field and realize, wait, there is a whole world of knowledge that college didn't even teach me. There's so much that I don't know. But here's the cool thing about school, right? It kind of teaches you how to learn. Your mind, you've got that mindset now to plow forward with any task or challenge that's put in front of you. That's awesome. So what about you, Michael? What was your biggest surprise in your career after you graduated?
Yeah, probably obviously, you know, not knowing everything. But for me, what was a huge thing for me was, you know, computer science. I was doing a lot of programming, Java, C sharp, but there were some words and some technologies that from like day zero that I had never heard of. And I was like, this is crazy. How did I go through all 4 years? And this is the first time I'm hearing this word, you know? So that was probably the biggest thing. And then on top of that, the idea that in this software world, there's so much more, you know, and I was really focused on this one subset in a sense of computer science, but there's so many other options that you could go, especially with that career, with that degree. So that was probably the biggest thing for me.
So when you found these new technologies, these new keywords that you had not been exposed to before, do you feel that your schooling prepared you to ramp up on those quickly?
Yeah, for computer science, a lot of it is, you know, the technical thought process, and I think that's what really helps me grasp things maybe at a quicker rate than other people, that maybe non-technical people. But so I think that was definitely helpful, and things like that. Yeah.
Awesome. So if there was one do-over that you could go back, if you had invented a time machine that you can only use once, of course, and you could go back and do something over, what would your do-over be?
I think it would be like that. You know, I think being able to do some research on these other areas, because, you know, I wasn't so I could program, but it didn't click as fast as some other classmates. So I was like, I don't think I want to be a programmer, but I knew that there were so many things out there in the computer science field that I could have done. So if I could, I would go back and begin with this knowledge, look at other avenues, the software world, and then maybe, you know, have a more of a concrete plan of what I want to do, where I want to go. So I think that's what I would redo.
All right. So Richard, if you had a do-over, what would you do differently next time around?
I think probably Yeah, I think for me, one, to not be as afraid of failure, to really know that it's okay to fail. I think for me, being very success driven and just, obviously trying to be at the highest level in anything that I do, I think at times like being scared of failing would have held me back, or even seeking perspective, seeking mentorship, seeking someone that was where I wanted to be, that could help maybe shed light or shed perspective into, hey, this is what this role may look like. I know for me, going back to when I first got to the company, and that first week, I thought I was going to get fired because I didn't know anything, and um, I was very scared to even just reach out to one of my coworkers that I'm working with that's been there for years, just to gain perspective. I would sit down, and not saying that you should, take ownership of your own education as well. And the last thing you want to do is go ask someone a question when it's available to you. But like once I would research all of that, and then still like for the next like day spend time trying to figure it out. And then, but one thing that they did appreciate when I finally did was that they saw that I took the time in to try and figure out the answers before reaching out to them. But I think maybe a day less, and just that in life in general, taking that same mindset and potentially, doing it earlier in life to really get a better understanding, because at the end of the day, we're very much limited, as you said, to by our own knowledge set. So why not lean on to others that are where we want to be? And so I think that may have sped up a few timelines, but other than that, I think that's really it.
Wow. Both of you are extremely mature in your thought process of how you've grown in your fields in such a short amount of time. You guys are still fairly young. You're not an old grizzled guy like me, but you've learned and picked up some things about how key it is to not just be self-reliant, but also to be um, interactive. So there's a balance, right? As you just mentioned, you could go out and just start asking people for help, which is fine. You should feel comfortable to do that. But at the same time, if you have taken the initiative to look at some things yourself, ramp up a little bit, and then ask someone to help you fill in the gaps, someone will respect you a whole lot more, and you'll learn a whole lot more that way as well. That's awesome. That's awesome. Guys, one more question for each of you. Hey, Richard, I'll start with you. If there is a piece, just one piece of advice that you would offer someone who's considering a field in STEM, what would you tell them?
Yeah, no, I think to piggyback off of that, I think really just to understand um, the lifestyle. I think one thing that I've learned is almost reverse engineering anything or that you want to do in life and breaking it down to little steps. Okay, I want to become a computer engineer. All right, then what do I need to do to become a computer engineer? What does that look like? What are the steps I need to start taking now to position myself? So I think really doing your research, understanding, hey, is this actually what I want? Maybe even looking into the lifestyle. If it's remote, mostly remote, if it's mainly in office, like what is the lifestyle that you want to achieve in life? Figure out what role or position maybe aligns better with that, and then reverse engineer that to figure out the baby steps you need to start taking now to get there. So I think that'd be it for me.
That's beautiful. That is, and that's so key, not just in STEM, but for anyone who's looking at any career. Look at what you want your life to look like, and then reverse engineer it. That's I had never heard it put that way before, and that is so spot on. Thank you for that. How about you, Michael? What piece of advice would you give to someone considering STEM?
Yeah, I would kind of, to piggyback off of my own story, I would, I would just keep an open mind, right? You may have a path that you thought you were destined. Like me, I thought I was going to be cybersecurity. I was very interested in it, and I ended up not there, but I'm still happy with what I do. So keeping an open mind, understanding that it's probably, there's a high chance it won't go exactly how you planned it. So kind of understand count your blessings in a sense, for what you're given and the opportunities that do present themselves. Because many times we all have opportunities, but you don't realize it and you pass it up. Next thing you know, you think back years ago, I had that chance. So always keep an open mind, be ready to be dynamic and in the thought process for how your career can go.
That's awesome too. I mean, having an open mind about, because like you said, the STEM careers are so diverse. There's so many different ways you could go. I started out as an electrical engineer by degree. And after I graduated, I really didn't do anything with electrical engineering. I was more in computer science and software engineering. And actually, whenever I graduated, there was no software engineering degree that I could get. Since then, there is a software engineering track that you can get from many schools, but that's the career that I work in. And I could go there because I started with the basics of STEM. It just opens up your entire world, if you have an open mind, to a broad spectrum of careers. Guys, I really appreciate your time this evening. This is an amazing time for me, speaking with some young, very sharp guys that have made some really great decisions in their careers. And I do hope that there'll be a number of young adults who benefit, who are blessed by what you had to say here tonight, because I think it'll be very, very helpful to anyone who's looking to make a career decision around STEM. Well, guys, with that, we're going to close out. And once again,
thank you so much, Rob. This was great.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob.
Good night.